He's worried about losing half of his portfolio and that might derail his retirement plan. I got an email from a great client, just legends out in the Pacific Northwest. I love these guys, just absolute legends. And it concerned me in some regard. And because it's not concerned me because I think it's foolhardy or anything like that, because it concerned me how concerned he is. Or they are, I should say. He, they, or they, them. That's what the whole thing take down. I'm they, them. Oh, you're two people? Yes, I am two people. All right, you know how absurd that sounds. Anyway, and he said in his email, he said, we're worried about losing half our portfolio and it derailing our retirement plan. Should we do something? And I looked up his portfolio, and it was about 55-45 stocks to bonds, equivalent of the Vanguard Balance Index. And in my scenario, in my calculations when I'm using this, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Hold pause. So here's what we allocate or find out for his portfolio. We got an annual return of 5% and a standard deviation, we'll just say for 8.5. All right. So basically, what that means is we're only giving him a 5% expected rate of return anyway, and a standard deviation of 8.5. So what that simply means, we take the standard deviation times by 3. Essentially, we get 25. All right. We have a 5% average rate of return. All right. So within 99.8% probability of these scenarios that we're using, we would think his portfolio would give us no greater than a 30% rate of return and no less than a 20% rate of return. That's what we would expect in his portfolio. So certainly well below a 50% decline. Now, with that said, that doesn't mean he's an idiot for thinking a 50% decline. Not at all. Not at all. I'm just telling you right now, we can only project based on statistics from the past. And here I'm giving a way lower than historical rate of return, but I am using historical standard deviations, which is something I talk about in my book, by the way, my soon-to-becoming published book. So I'm saying, hey, look, you got a 20% decline as a worst-case scenario, at least statistically probability. Now, with that said, could there be a black swan where this portfolio goes down 50%? Absolutely. What would cause that black swan? I don't know. An asteroid hitting the United States? I mean, I don't know. That's the issue. There's always going to be these black swans of things you can't consider. The problem is, how do you adjust for those black swans? If you can't, like an asteroid hitting there, how do you plan for that? Well, you can't. So you use the best available data, and the best available data is historical rates or historical standard deviation, and I discount rates of return. All right, so I'm using well below historic rates of return, but I am using the same standard deviation to give us, I hate to say the worst case scenario, but the worst case scenario statistically. All right, so in this regard, we're not coming anywhere near the 50% decline, not anywhere near it. But with that said, we're still giving him a significant downside, about 20%. Now, the nice thing about using Monte Carlo and the software that any financial planning software would use, it's already that 20% decline has already been baked into the software. And he's still coming out hot in terms of you're not running out of money. We've already taken into consideration that could happen. That could happen. Not statistically likely, but it could happen nonetheless. All right. Now, we aren't using a true black swan event. We're not, because again, how do you do that? But we are saying on any given year, your portfolio could be down 20%, and it's already baked into the cake, and you're still coming out high. Now, I actually even went a little bit further, and I asked Grok, I said, Grok, let me bring it up here. Where's old Grocky? Grocky, right here. I said, Grok, let's look at the Vanguard Balance Fund and see what it did from October 2007 to March of 2009. Because the Balance Fund is roughly 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And in 2008 was the worst year we ever had for stocks when inflation is factored in. Worst year ever. All right, that whole time period from 2007 October to March 9th of 2009, by far and away was the worst year stock market has ever seen. All right, now remember, this is a balanced portfolio, which includes stocks and bonds. All right, and what you'll see here is from 2008, this portfolio was down 22%. The balanced portfolio was down 22% from October from 2008. Again, by far and away the worst year ever in that fund. Now, from October 2007, again, the start of the bear market, to March 9th of 2009, the bottom of the bear market, it was down 16.6%. All right, so not even a third of a 50% decline. And that's the worst market in histoire, as we like to say in France. Again, could it happen worse? Sure. The likelihood is so small, I just wouldn't really worry about it. But then we got to say, well, what happened in 2022? Because remember, 2022 is the worst bond market by far we've ever had. Nothing even comes close. And this has 40% in bonds, the Vanguard bond portfolio, the balanced portfolio. And in 2022, it was down 16.8. So we're seeing something here. 16.6 from October 2007 to March of 2009, 16.8 in 2022, the worst bond market we've ever had. All right, so that's kind of it. That's kind of, in my opinion, that would be, other than a major black swan of untold proportions, but that'd be your worst case scenario that you would absolutely be legitimately planned for, a 17% decline. Now, that's still painful, but again, it's been put into the software. We've already baked it into the cake. Now, with that said, that's all great. That's statistically relevant. That makes sense analytically. Should this guy say, I can deal with this? Well, no. If he's having a hard time sleeping, there is absolutely nothing wrong with throwing his money into CDs. Remember, I'm only giving him hold on a second. I'm only giving him a 5.1% assumed rate of return, which is well below historical norms. But I'm giving him the same risk, and the risk is both upside and downside, by the way, of historical returns. So I'm only giving him 5.1 with an 8.4% standard deviation. And if we actually look, let's go back to Grok and ask Grok what the average return has been in the history of the balanced fund. Let's see what Grok says. So we'll say, what has the historic return of VBALX been? All right, so let's see. I'm sure it's probably 9% or something like that. Let's see what we got on an annualized basis. So you can see where I'm going with this. You can see I'm giving him significantly lower than historic rates of return with the same volatility. So the historic rates of return of VBALX have been since inception right about 9 to 10%. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Well, who the hell is it, man? That's 6.8% compounded annual growth rate. 7.5% over the last 15 years. But we'll just say 7%. So I'm giving him well below, in terms of our probabilities, historic rates of return with the same standard deviation. And you can see, let me look at 20, down, where's 94? Yeah, down to 99. Actually, 99 is up because the bonds were only 40%, the stocks are crushing. 2000, 2001, and 2, it was down, basically broken even, 5, 10. 2008, down 22%. 2022, down 16%. 24, down 13%. And so far, down 14.5. All right, that's more than I would have thought, actually. That's interesting. I would have thought it wouldn't have been down so much, but be that as it may. I don't know if that's right. Is that right? The Vanguard Balance Fund's down 14% so far? I don't know if I believe that. Let's take a look. Yeah, Grok, you know what the hell you're talking about. 7.27%. Yeah, so I'm not sure what Grok's talking about there. Yeah, they... Come on, man. Jeez. Let's see what's... Since inception... well, this is the Admiral Fund. Let's go to VBALX, the non-Admiral Fund. Freaking Grok, dude. Let's go to... we don't want the Admiral. We want the total right there. Let's see what it gives us here. I don't want to transition my account. That's why I got the stupid. By the way, if you want to support Black Lives Matter, you can do the VBLACks. VBLACks to support Black Lives Matter. All right, so since inception, I can't find the stupid investor shares, but 7.32. So if you doubled your money 10 years. All right, anyway, that's... Why make it so hard for your buddy Josh? Anyway, the point being is, if you got CDs, you're still getting 3 or 4% on CDs with no downside risk at all. Can you make that in your portfolio? Sure. Do you have to be like that for the rest of your life? No. There's nothing wrong with taking a defensive posture if you're freaking worried. It's okay. Now, I'm not going to yell at anybody for doing that, for heaven's sake. I just want you to enjoy your retirement. And if you're worried about your portfolio, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Now, look, if it's going to sink the ship, sure. But it's not going to sink the ship, man. Just remember, standard deviation goes both ways. It goes up. That means the more standard deviation, the higher the upside. But it goes down. The more standard deviation, the lower the downside. But we're not trying to capture the upside as much in retirement as we're trying to protect against the downside. Would I suggest my great people up there in the Pacific Northwest just go to CDs for the rest of their life? No. But it's okay if it lets you sleep at night. It's okay. I'm not going to yell at anybody. I'm not going to let the trolls, market time, freaking screw those people, dude. Do what you got to do. Now, again, does that mean we sit there for the rest of our lives? No. And we could. I don't care. But for the time being, A, I don't think it's anything to be all that overly concerned with. But B, if you are and you can't sleep at night, then freaking go to CDs. Nothing wrong with that. All right. God bless. Love your thoughts. And this is not a troll on my friends, because these are great people. But I can feel it in their email that they're nervous. It's okay. It's okay. No matter what anybody says, it's okay. And if you go to CDs, I will be the last guy to ever laugh, because I get it. I get it. I'm self-employed. You think I don't think about this all the time? I'm like, I got my money over here. If I don't get any more clients and the portfolio goes down 50%, a la 2008, my goose is cooked, dude. I don't want to ever go through that again. Heaven forbid. All right, God bless. We'll see you.